Now at 7, President Trump trying to get some of the country's biggest law firms on his side, but some are calling the move illegal and a threat to democracy.
Clearly retribution against people who had differing views or were representing clients with differing views.
Tonight, how some in the Bay Area law community are fighting back. Too close to call, voters in Oakland are still waiting to find out who will be the next leader of their city.
And want to see what the mayor's what they're out of the gate, what they're gonna do.
Will it be Lauren Taylor or Barbara Lee? Why voter turnout could play a role in who wins. And an East Bay refinery with a history of violations could be closing down. Why it could be a big loss for the community and drivers across California.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliette Goodrich.
Good evening. Tonight, Bay Area lawyers are sounding the alarm after President Trump zeroes in on a new target. Big law firms that have wronged him or his causes in the past. He recently signed executive orders to punish certain private firms, threatening to strip away their access to government buildings. To stay on the president's good side, 9 major law firms, including some of the offices right here in the Bay Area, have struck deals, agreeing to provide hundreds of millions of dollars in free legal work to the administration for causes that the president supports. But some in the law community call this move dangerous, even a threat to democracy. As Lauren Toms shows us, a retired civil rights lawyer is among those fighting back.
Getting lots of thumbs up, and a lot of people will glance and look away, and I go, what are you afraid of?
Kerry Goff isn't afraid of stirring up conversation as he quietly protests law firms that have cut deals with the Trump administration to avoid sanctions.
They've sold out democracy. They've sold out their oath of office to defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States.
A retired civil rights attorney of 42 years, Kerry says he feels an obligation to speak out against the big law firms that have agreed to provide pro bono work on causes that align with the White House agenda in order to avoid federal penalties. He also says he has empathy for the employees of those firms who may be at odds with the decision.
They've betrayed the Constitution, they've betrayed democracy, but they've also betrayed these associates who've taken these jobs.
On any given day, Kerry changes his sign to call out the firm he's protesting.
And thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
One local law firm has been outspoken, backing those firms that have been hit with sanctions.
We all thought this was really alarming. Clearly retribution against people who had differing views or were representing clients with differing views.
Bob Van Nest, partner at Kecker Van Nest and Peters law firm, was among the first of nearly 500 firms to publicly back those targeted by the White House. It's a move that could put his firm squarely against the president. He says he's not worried about the consequences, but is concerned about the implications of the executive orders on firms that represent the president's political opponents.
And these letters were directly intended by the Trump administration to curtail that and to basically intimidate, to cow lawyers into staying away from that kind of work.
UC law professor Matthew Cole says the agreements between the Trump administration and law firms are legal.
Is the substance of the agreement, which the law firms say, well, we'll do pro bono work for the federal government and we'll make some changes to what our hiring practices are. There's no reason why the law firms can't agree to that.
But that the executive orders issued by President Trump are unconstitutional.
There's just no colorable claim I can think of that there's anything in the Constitution or a law passed by Congress that authorizes this. So it's just it's lawless out of the box. No authority to do it.
For Kerry and his one-man protest, he says the least he can do is speak out.
They take that oath. They're not defending it. They betrayed it.
An oath Kerry still holds dear in his beliefs on the rule of law.
So we've reached out to one of the law firms that reached deals with the White House for comment, but have not heard back. President Trump suggested this week that the cooperating firms could be called on to work on negotiating trade deals, among other things. But the exact scope of it is still unknown. As for the executive orders, a federal judge this week blocked most of the restrictions placed on law firm Sussman Godfrey. This was the fourth federal judge to rule the White House cannot limit a law firm's access to parts of the federal government. Sonoma County faith and community leaders are taking a stand in support of undocumented immigrants by declaring their places of worship as sanctuaries. A group of people lined up with signs showing their support outside of the courthouse square in Santa Rosa. Faith leaders are declaring their congregations as sanctuaries in response to the Trump administration's crackdown on immigrants. Faith leaders say there's been a rise in fear among immigrant communities over deportations.
The thing with fear is that it becomes persistent, it becomes pervasive, right? Folks aren't going to schools. Some folks might not feel safe going to work. And so what's important when people are afraid is to let them know they're not alone and that we're standing together.
So just last week, a federal judge sided with the Trump administration in allowing ICE agents to conduct enforcement operations on places of worship. This despite a lawsuit that was filed by 24 Christian and Jewish groups over the policy. All right, voters in Oakland are still waiting to find out who will be their next mayor. At this point, the results of the special election are still too close to call. So right now, former Councilman Lauren Taylor holds a slim lead over former Congresswoman Barbara Lee, 51% to nearly 49%. When you run the ballots through a ranked choice runoff. But then another 42,000 ballots still need to be processed. And then take a look at this, a clear divide between supporters of the two candidates, Barbara Lee winning the zip codes highlighted in the orange, while Lauren Taylor had more support in the areas highlighted in purple. Our Kara St. Cyr spoke to Oaklanders about the divide and has more on why this election may all be down to turnout.
As votes slowly trickle in what's expected to be a very tight race, Robin Violet is anxious to know who will be Oakland's next mayor.
We definitely are following and want to know and want to see what the mayor's what they're out of the gate, what they're going to do.
Lauren Taylor and Barbara Lee are neck and neck for the highest position in the city, with Taylor showing a slight lead with the ballots counted so far.
44 years.
Violet thinks Oakland is ready for a change, and this special election is just the beginning of that. That's why she cast her ballot for Taylor.
He hit the ground running in Oakland, even though, not to say that Barbara Lee doesn't have any familiarity with Oakland, but also he's younger. We need more younger people in the Democratic Party.
Violet represents the majority in the Montclair area that largely voted in Taylor's favor. An electoral map of early results shows that Taylor held the lead in the Oakland Hills, but the Flatland neighborhoods, including large parts of West and East Oakland and downtown, favor Barbara Lee. But USF political science professor James Taylor says that voter turnout could play a critical role in who wins this race.
Advantage Lauren Taylor if there's a low turnout. Barbara Lee is famous. Barbara Lee is a legend. Barbara Lee is a California jewel. And if voters are not coming out in droves to say, we are behind you because we see the urgency of our city, we've had all of these disruptions and eruptions, we need you to come and calm us, calm things down. If voters are not showing that enthusiasm from Barbara Lee, maybe they're willing to go with Lauren Taylor as a younger person who, with insider insight from the city council.
As of Wednesday, voter turnout was just under 20%, a stark contrast to the 53% turnout in 2022's mayoral election when Sheng Tao won.
Oakland's tired. Oakland's tired.
Michael Morano decided to sit this election out.
I think the problems are so systemic that people are stepping away and saying, I can't vote in this election. I can't, put my name down on somebody because of the system that's there.
But he's still anxiously awaiting the results.
Someone's going to win. That's an election. Someone's going to get more votes than the other, and that's the result.
But that could take a while. Mail-in ballots are accepted for 7 days after the election, as long as they were postmarked on Election Day. It's also a long process for the registrar's office to tally mail-in ballots and verify signatures, with much of the work done manually. That means voters like Violet could be in limbo for a few weeks. Election results will be released every Friday until the certification deadline on May 15th.
It appears Charlene Wang will be the next Oakland City Council person in District 2. She has a wide lead with 66% when you go through the ranked choice voting rounds. Wang would represent parts of Chinatown, Jack London Square, Lakeshore, and Highland Terrace. And voters in Oakland are poised to raise the city's sales tax by 0.5%. The goal is to raise $30 million a year to help reduce the city's nearly $90 million budget deficit. Valero announced it's considering closing its Benicia refinery as soon as next April. So the move could be a major economic blow to the city of Benicia. The refinery is the single largest employer in Benicia. Valero pays the city about $8 million a year in taxes, which makes up 10% of the city's general fund. The refinery is also a major contributor to nonprofits and youth sports. The mayor says there's a lot of impacts the city has to prepare for, but they are ready to push through.
We're going to certainly survive this. We may not thrive as much as we had planned in the near future. I think it's hyperbolic to think this represents the end of Benicia as we know it.
Valero's Benicia refinery accounts for just under 10% of the state's gasoline production. With fewer refineries in the state, that could mean shortages in the gas supply chain, which means prices could go up. New progress in the effort to build new housing for survivors of the Half Moon Bay mass shooting. The first prefabricated home has now been delivered to Stone Pine Cove. The housing community will eventually have 47 homes, all meant for low-income farm workers. Take a look at this bust in Santa Clara County. Sheriff's deputies say they recovered more than 150 bottles of stolen wine and liquor from a home in San Jose, along with some stolen seafood and $67,000 in cash. Another 70 bottles were found in Morgan Hill, too. Investigators say in total it comes out to almost $50,000 in stolen property. 3 people who they say stole booze and 1 buyer were all arrested. Up next, a fiery debate how California homeowners are fighting back against a new surcharge adding to their bills. And it's a scavenger hunt of sorts to bring more light to Vacaville. We'll explain.
Saw some light filtering through the clouds today, but now the clouds are filling back in after another cool and breezy day. The warmest spot across the Bay Area, just 67 degrees in San Jose, a couple degrees below average, and only 57 at Half Moon Bay and upper 50s in Santa Rosa and San Francisco, too. One more day like this tomorrow and some changes for Easter weekend. Details coming up in First Alert Weather.
Tomorrow marks 100 days since the deadly wildfires broke out in Southern California. The fires are among the most destructive in state history and could reshape the future of our insurance industry. California's insurer of last resort, the FAIR Plan, is in need of a massive bailout after the LA fires. And insurance companies are expected to pass that cost on to customers. But as Hunter Soward reports, a consumer group is fighting back in court.
In February, Commissioner Ricardo Lara ordered insurance companies in California to give $1 billion to the FAIR Plan, which is typical after a catastrophic event. Something called an assessment is done to determine the price tag needed to cover significant loss. The FAIR Plan, also known as the insurance of last resort, can put that call out for money out to insurers, and usually insurance companies just pay up. In this case, though, after the devastating LA wildfires, insurance companies who are approved for a surcharge can pass that fee off to its customers, something Consumer Watchdog says is anything but fair.
So basically, homeowners would be entirely responsible for insuring these catastrophic losses of the FAIR Plan. And I do think that's outrageous. The FAIR Plan was created, it was a plan sponsored by the insurance industry and supported by the insurance industry. And now that they don't like how it's played out, they want to change the rules. And we don't think that's fair. We think it's against the law. And yeah, people should be outraged.
It's important to know that the lawsuit filed against the FAIR Plan won't impact their ability to pay out claims. Several companies, though, have already applied to pass the cost to customers. Consumer Watchdog is suing for the commissioner to have to go through proper channels and not allow companies to shift those costs. We reached out to the commissioner about the lawsuit and have not heard back.
We've seen cloudy conditions across the Bay Area over the past couple of days, and that kind of weather is going to be with us for one more day. We're looking at the map of the whole West Coast, and we have not been alone in this pattern. Here's a replay of the satellite loop over the past several hours. And while that fog and low cloud cover has really been locked in close to the coast, it's a disturbance farther down to our south. Over Southern California, it's been kind of swirling around and helping to promote this weather pattern, reducing the weight of the atmosphere on top of us, allowing that marine layer to get quite a bit deeper. And that's going to remain the trend again for one more day before a little modest warm-up kicks in for the end of the work week and as we head into the weekend. Let's take a look at how things are shaping up right now as we look outside from the top of the Mark Hopkins Hotel, seeing plenty of that cloud cover, a few peaks of blue sky here and there, but they have been pretty few and far between throughout much of the day. Temperature stands at 61 degrees in San Jose. Everybody else already down to the 50s, and the sun hasn't even gone down yet. That doesn't happen for about another 20 to 25 minutes or so. With the clouds spreading back in, our temperatures really aren't going to drop a whole lot as we head through the rest of tonight, and we are going to see the fog becoming pretty widespread as we head through the overnight and early morning hours on Thursday. Futurecast shows that activity spreading well into the inland valleys. The fog, at least low cloud cover, even if it's not fog sitting right at ground level, it's going to be widespread. I would allow a couple extra minutes on the way out the door. But the fog shouldn't take too long to back up out of the inland valleys as we head through the first half of the day along the coast. And even in the North Bay valleys, it's going to be a bit more stubborn. Probably not quite as stubborn as the past couple of days for the North Bay valleys. Because that fog has been there for most of the Tuesday and today, we've seen temperatures only warming up into the upper 50s in the North Bay. Tomorrow, with a little more sunshine peeking through, we're optimistically saying you're going to make it up into the mid-60s. Fingers crossed. If the clouds are still stubborn, then you're going to be stuck in the upper 50s like you will be along the coast. Low to mid 60s around the bay, and even the warmest spots, once again, for one more day, falling short of 70 degrees. In Fairfield, around Antioch and Brentwood, same thing in San Jose. Temperatures ending up about a degree below normal, only getting up into the upper 60s by tomorrow afternoon. The wind will still be noticeable throughout the day tomorrow as well, but it's not going to be quite as strong as it was today. These are the every 6-hour wind gusts from one of the forecast models, and basically what you're looking for here are the orange colored panels in the background. I know it's a lot of information on the screen at once, but the color coding makes it easy to pick out the windiest time frames, which isn't going to be the entire day tomorrow, and only about half of our communities that we've listed here are going to have those 20+ mile-an-hour gusts tomorrow afternoon. And it doesn't look like Friday is going to be an exceptionally breezy day either. And as the winds die down, the temperatures go up. The 10-day temperature outlook for Livermore, as our representative inland parts of the Bay Area, shows the climb that kicks in as we head into Easter weekend, with temperatures peaking on Monday close to 80 degrees. And then it's down the other side of the temperature roller coaster and back down to slightly below normal temperatures for the latter half of next week as we finish the last full week of April. And that corresponds to a very modest chance of a couple of showers. These are the rain chances for next week. So we're going Sunday through Saturday, and right here, Friday into Saturday, just a little taller bar on the chart indicating the chance. Some of the forecast models are trying to seek some moisture towards us. It's not likely to happen, but it's something that we can't completely rule out. The rain chances tend to be pretty few and far between this time of year, so we'll keep an eye out for them just in case. Here's the 7-day forecast for the coast, where even the warmest days aren't going to be too much warmer than the coolest days. And while the sunshine's going to be in short supply, I think you'll see some of it peeking through, especially as we head into Easter weekend and early next week. More of a mix of clouds and sunshine around the bay. After gray skies tomorrow, we'll see the sunshine peeking through to a greater extent on Friday, and temperatures warm back up to the upper 60s, even around or just above 70 degrees for the warmest day on Monday. And then it's back down that other side of the roller coaster. A quick check of the inland forecast over the next 7 days. The warmest day stands out, close to 80 degrees on Monday, and then dropping about 4 degrees each day, Tuesday and a week from today. Jules?
Honestly, that looks perfect. All
Except
right.
for the Easter eggs. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. We'll get them next time.
Okay.
All right, Paul, thank you. 2 members of the Valkyries' first draft class arrive in the Bay Area. We'll introduce you to them next. All right, the Valkyries will play their first regular season game 1 month from tonight at Chase Center. And 2 of the team's new rookies arrived in Oakland earlier today. Matt Lively has the latest.
I think you see how much they have invested in their team. I guess I should say our team.
Cheyenne Sellers is quickly adjusting to her new role.
It's super exciting. You know, you hit adulting really fast. You go from, having everything scheduled for you to just being a pro now.
The Golden State Valkyries select Caitlin Chen, University of Connecticut.
The last 2 weeks have been even more hectic for Caitlin Chin. She won a national championship with UConn 8 days before being drafted.
I feel like for me, it's been a lot of just taking a lot of deep breaths and sort of enjoying each moment.
Chin played 3 years at Princeton before transferring to UConn. Now, the Asian American guard will play for Natalie Nakase, the first Asian American head coach.
Growing up, there haven't been a ton of Asian American athletes playing at the highest level, and to be able to sort of be that role model for younger Asian Americans, and I hope that I can be someone that they can look up to.
Chin and Sellers got their first taste of Chase Center for last night's Warriors play-in game.
The atmosphere in there was amazing. It was so loud. We're so lucky to be able to also play in that exact same atmosphere.
It was a great atmosphere. Definitely was fangirling over Steph Curry. But it was just an awesome place to be, and I can't wait to play there.
Up next, the bright idea in Vacaville with the hopes of making streets safer. Next. Vacaville is asking the community how to improve lighting across 15 key spots downtown. They have set up a self-guided walking tour, and anyone is welcome to check out the spots and fill out a survey. City officials say the goal is to help people feel safer when out at night. As a result, they hope that more people will want to come out and patronize local businesses. So that survey is open until May 4th. What a bright idea. All right, thanks for watching. The news continues at 8 on Pix Plus or 44 Cable 12. We'll see you right back here at 11 o'clock. Have a good one.